Hello, and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're going to be visiting the Port of Long Beach, one of truly the treasures of Long Beach. And joining me is Stephen Macias. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, Harvey, and welcome to Long Beach Treasures.
What is the mural behind us?
The mural depicts the history of the San Pedro Bay from the time our building was finished in the 1950s to the early days of Long Beach history, pre-Long Beach history, if you will. The mural reads from right to left, again depicting the Spanish and Portuguese sailors who sailed into this area in 1542. Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo was the first Westerner, if you will, into the San Pedro Bay. The mural then goes on to show Long Beach's history as a rancho and ultimately how cargo was handled in the 1950s when this building was dedicated, pre-containerization.
Now, is a port owned by the City of Long Beach?
Actually, we are a city department. Our official name is the Long Beach Harbor Department, and we operate much like any other city department with a few exceptions. We do not report directly to the city manager. Instead, we're governed by a 5-member board of harbor commissioners.
Appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council?
Exactly.
For 2 6-year terms at this time?
At this time, you're absolutely correct.
And we're going to go take a tour of the port?
Right, we're going to jump on board the Port Surveys boat, and we're going to get an inside look at Long Beach Harbor.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's go.
Well, here we are.
This is it, Harvey. Welcome again to the Port of Long Beach.
These cranes are just phenomenal. They're so huge. I can't imagine. I guess they're built around the world.
Yeah, our newer cranes are coming to us primarily from China these days. As a government entity, we go out to bid for cranes, and there's this manufacturer in China, ZPMC, that is truly doing remarkable things with these gantries. The ones to the right of us here are some of the newest cranes in operation at the port. Those booms extend 160 feet.
Now, when these are shipped over, are they fully built on these ships as they're coming across the ocean?
They are transported fully assembled. We did take delivery of some new gantries back at Pier A. Pier A is the former Ford plant in Long Beach. And those cranes had to travel across the Pacific semi-retracted because they were too tall to clear the Gerald Desmond Bridge in our inner harbor.
Fully erect. It must look like a Star Wars coming across the ocean.
They are otherworldly, that's right. One of the many varied cargoes we see at Long Beach Harbor.
Now, where does the Port of Long Beach rank nationwide?
We are the second busiest container port in the United States, followed just behind the Port of Los Angeles, which continues to lead.
Weren't you number 1 at one time?
We were number 1, I believe, in the mid-90s, 94 to the year 2000. We were number 1. We lost a customer. They moved to the port just to the west of us, the Port of Los Angeles, and with their departure, LA regained the number 1 container title.
What about worldwide?
Worldwide, we're number 5 when combined with the Port of Los Angeles. Number 1, number 2, it doesn't really matter what we're doing for Southern California with this wealth of trade opportunities is providing jobs and cargo for the nation.
What do you think, 1 out of how many jobs would the port provide for the city of Long Beach? Do you have any idea?
1 out of 8 jobs in the city of Long Beach linked to trade, Harvey. There are some 30,000 jobs in the city. Everything from international bankers and freight forwarders, customs brokers, government workers, truck drivers. I mean, a whole myriad of opportunities.
Are you the largest employer in the city?
We're one of the largest, yeah. Trade does continue to grow, and with that growth comes an increase in economic opportunity for Long Beach.
Now, it's my understanding that you lease out these various facilities to major companies?
Exactly. We operate as a landlord port. We do not operate any of the facilities you'll see today. Instead, we long-term lease them to carriers and to terminal operators who move cargo. That's their primary interest.
So does each terminal operator provide the labor force required for their facility?
Yes, it's all waterfront labor is coordinated through the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. All 29 U.S. West Coast ports are manned, if you will, by members of the ILWU.
How many containers can one of these ships hold?
Well, hopefully we'll see one of these super ships a little later in our tour, but some of the largest vessels calling at Long Beach these days carry upwards of 8,000 20-foot equivalent units, 8,000 20-foot cargo containers per crossing.
It doesn't even seem possible that anything that big with that much weight could even float.
Harvey, these ships are truly incredible. They're 1,100 feet in length. They're 140 feet wide. They are a new generation of container ships known as post-Panamax vessels. They are vessels too wide, too long to transit through the Panama Canal, and thus restricted to the Trans-Pacific or transatlantic trade routes.
And it's my understanding that some of these huge ships has a crew of only 12 to 15 people?
Remarkable, but yeah, they are engineering wonders. Fully automated, the captain or master of the ship assumes control, sailing into or out of the harbor. The rest of the time, barring weather and other natural incidents, they are completely automated.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, truly, truly. With any luck, we'll get you on one of those ships one day. We have some vessel activity in front of us, a rarity in the harbor, actually a rarity in this industry. Matson Lines, you may recall, used to operate passenger ships to Hawaii. Yeah, they're one of the last remaining U.S. flagged carriers. They continue to operate between the U.S. West Coast and Hawaii and Guam. But Matson, too, is taking advantage of that booming Chinese trade these days. And in the last year, they've added service from southern China to Long Beach.
Is China the largest?
China is our largest trading partner, yeah. And it's two-way trade with the People's Republic of China these days. But push a shopping cart through a discount store, and you'll see that many of our manufactured goods these days do come from the People's Republic of China. In fact, Asia dominates 90% of this port's trade.
So without China, the trade here at the port would be reduced considerably.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely right there.
It's just remarkable, the port. Oh, here's another one of our guests, Art Wong. Art,
Hi,
answer
how are
the
you?
question.
We have about 3,000 acres of land. The Port Authority oversees about 7,600 acres of land and water, including these channels and harbors here.
Would you guys ever want the breakwater to come down? Or is that an unfair question?
The breakwater is controlled actually by the federal government. They built it over a 50-year period. It cost many millions and millions of dollars.
And wasn't it built to keep, for the military ships coming into port,
In part that, but also to protect the two port complexes, the Port of LA and Long Beach, and also to protect the waterfront properties of the many homeowners and others living along the waterfront.
So where are we headed now?
Well, it really depends on which way our captain's going to take us. Again, we are looking for vessels in the harbor today. Right turn here around Pier F will take us down to the Jacobson Pilot Station as well as U.S. Sea Launch. I believe we have a vessel working at Pier J South. It really is the captain's whim which direction we're headed right now, Harvey.
So we'll hang off for a minute and we'll wait till we find something interesting.
Great.
All right, here we are. We're coming into some activity here.
Yeah, this is our Pier J South channel. It's operated by Stevedoring Services of America. We have a French line ship in berth today. Again, this is one of those super ships that we referenced earlier, Harvey. It carries about 8,000 20-foot containers per voyage. Also, from this vantage point, you can see the length of those booms. The booms are the part of the gantry crane that come down when a ship arrives at berth, hence the expression lowering the boom.
Ah.
And again, from this vantage point, you can get its full length, which is 160 feet wide. Again, we talk about these vessels being post-Panamax vessels, again, that transit the Pacific or the Atlantic trade routes. They are too large to transit through the Panama Canal. The canal, remember, is over 100 years old. The locks are 1,000 feet in length. They're 110 feet wide. And again, these vessels are 1,100 feet long, 140 feet wide. And Panama did just approve bond issues measures to expand the canal, but again, that's probably a decade away.
Is Costco one of your largest leaseholders?
Well, actually, Costco does not lease land from the Port of Long Beach. They are a tenant of Stevedoring Services of America. And again, you have Costco boxes on this terminal along with Hanjin boxes, MSC, which is Mediterranean Shipping Company out of Europe, and another French carrier here, CMA CGM Lines. So we are truly exhibiting international trade at its best.
Now this ship is what, approximately a quarter of a mile long?
Yeah, just under 1,100 feet. And this is the CMA CGM Hugo.
It's unbelievable. I still can't fathom something that large being able to stay afloat.
And you know what else is remarkable, Harvey? Despite the size of these ships, they're in and out of here in about 3 to 4 days. They are making Long Beach their first U.S. West Coast port of call. These giants transit across the Pacific from South China, Hong Kong, Japan, wherever, carrying cargo intended for consumption in Southern California. We are also handling cargo distribution throughout the United States from right here in Long Beach Harbor.
Do you have any idea how long it takes for them to make a crossing?
Yeah, it's about 12 days, 2 weeks. They're fast vessels, they're efficient vessels. With the port's Green Port policy, which was initiated about 2 years ago by our Board of Harbor Commissioners, these vessels now are slowing down about 20 miles from shore. Slower moving ships emit fewer emissions. Thank you, Harvey. Yeah, and that helps us breathe easier in Long Beach and in Southern California.
And this would hold how many containers did you say?
8,000 20-footers. Now the bulk of the containers are 40-footers, so just divide that number in half. You can see the 20s on the bow on the front end of this ship, and the 40-footers are towards the center and the rear of this vessel.
And it takes about 3 days to unload all.
3 to 4 days, yeah, if the ship is working 2 or 3 shifts.
I'm assuming you have an eclectic mix of merchandise that come into the port?
Yeah, we handle just about everything that the consumer wants. Being post-holiday shopping season now, Harvey, you probably were involved in some of that pre-holiday shopping madness. I tell folks that, you know, the contents of a container ship are as varied as the contents of a shopping mall. Lots of electronics, a lot of consumables, clothing items, depending on the season, back to school clothing for our children. The list goes on and on.
Now the arms here, those are part of the crane. That's not part of the ship, is that correct?
Those arms are actually the gantry crane booms.
And that's what unloads the containers?
Actually, look closely at those booms and you'll see a glass enclosed cab.
Moving right there.
Right, they move back and forth across the boom. Inside that cab is a member of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. And they are operating Nintendo-like joysticks to raise and lower these boxes that weigh 40 to 60 tons.
There's one moving now.
Right, he or she is going to be pulling off a box. On the other side of the ship, on the wharf side, there's another ILWU member. He or she is operating a cab with a bomb cart. The box is placed on board that bomb cart and then relocated in the container terminal. If it is going to be consumed locally, a truck will pick it up. If it's headed for points east of the Rocky Mountains, then the box will be transferred directly to our rail yard.
Now this little structure in the middle, that's the cruise compartment?
That's it.
Houses all of the mechanisms to operate the ship?
Exactly. From the wheelhouse on down to crew quarters, galley, recreational facilities. There are elevators on these ships to carry crew members from floor to floor.
Be darned. There goes a container right now.
Right, that one's being loaded onto the ship. Could be a U.S. export. And what we're exporting out of Long Beach and the U.S. these days is primarily raw materials, plastics, cotton, agriculture. American farmers, U.S. farmers, feed the world.
Now only one super tanker can be here at the dock at any one time?
At this facility, they have room for one super ship, yes. Our newest terminal, which is operated by Total Terminals International, the wharf at that facility is almost a mile long, and they can accommodate 3 super ships at once.
How many cranes do you have in the port?
We have over 80 gantry cranes, with the majority of them being post-Panamax cranes capable of handling these larger container ships.
This just keeps going and going, doesn't it?
It seems that way, yeah, to the uninformed visitor, and that's why I'm glad we can show Long Beach Treasure's audience our seaport in Long Beach.
I don't think a lot of people realize how vast and how important the port is to the city.
We are an economic engine. Again, we generate 30,000 jobs in the city of Long Beach. That's 1 out of 8 jobs in the city of Long Beach tied to trade. Within Southern California, that job count grows to about 500,000.
Let me interrupt you just
Sure.
a second. What's hanging off the arm of the crane right there?
That's the mechanism that is used, the spreader bar, it's called the spreader bar, and that is what attaches to the containers.
Oh, and lifts it up.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a great view of that piece of equipment. When these cranes aren't being utilized to offload cargo, they're being used by members of the ILWU. Crane operators are a special breed of dock workers. You typically start out working the docks and then you move into crane operating, and it takes a few extra skills.
That's quite impressive, seeing the stern of the ship right there with all of the containers.
Exactly, and you can see that rack system that's utilized by some of these large vessels to hold the boxes in place. Further, you use these steel bars to lock the containers at the very back end of the vessel into place and hold them during the Trans-Pacific crossing.
This is the end of the port here?
That's the end of this channel, so we'll make a U-turn here and then we'll head back out. There's a bunker barge adjacent to the vessel. Again, they don't want to waste any time in port, so they will be refueled, restocked, and on their way as quickly as possible.
It's really quite calm in here.
It is.
Always this calm?
This is a protected channel, yes, for unloading cargo, and the vessel needs to be secure against the wharf for safety and optimum loading and unloading capability here.
I just can't get over how large those cranes are.
Large cranes, large ships. Sometimes I feel like the luckiest person in the world, like I never have to grow up, because I remember playing with big boats and big cranes when I was a kid, and I still get to do it.
Now, compare the size of this ship to the Queen Mary.
Actually, they're pretty similar. The Queen Mary is 1,019 feet long, if memory holds, and these vessels are 1,100 feet long.
So the Queen Mary is a little longer.
A little shorter, 1,019 versus 1,100.
Gotcha.
Yeah, 81 feet,
Yeah.
if my math is correct, Harvey.
Don't ask me a math question.
Me either.
And those are all self-contained cargo containers.
Right, and again, the contents is as varied as the content of a shopping mall.
Do you have any, is there anything that cannot be shipped into the Port of Long Beach?
Well, hazardous materials, radioactive materials, unsafe cargoes, obviously.
So these ships have basically like what we have in some of the automobiles, that global positioning mechanism. They set the course and it goes on its own.
Exactly. Again, except for sailing into or out of a harbor, they are fully automated. There are times when vessels are transiting the seas that Mother Nature comes into play, and again, they need to be steadied and secured by that human touch.
That's going to be picking up a container.
Right, that's the spreader bar in operation. You can see the wings on each end of it. They latch into the box and hoist it up.
Now is this ship being unloaded or loaded?
It is happening simultaneously. They're both loading and unloading concurrently. Again, they have 3 gantry cranes on it. They're primarily working the center of the ship right now.
There it goes right
And there
now.
it goes, right.
And where do they drop it?
There's a cab and a trailer on the other side of the ship, on the wharf side. If the cargo is going to be consumed locally, they'll reposition it in the yard for a truck to pick up. If it's going to communities, to consumers east of the Rocky Mountains, well then they'll transit it to our rail yard. And we have on-dock rail in operation at most of our container terminals. We have trains that come into and out of the port. And I'm a Long Beach resident, Harvey. I know you are too. Each train that comes into or out of the harbor eliminates 250 one-way truck trips.
You know, sometimes when I'm in bed and it is quiet, I hear a train whistle. Is that from the port?
There are about 50 trains a day that service the harbor
But
these
I only
days.
hear it when it's only quiet.
I too hear it in the quiet of the night, and it's kind of interesting. It reminds me that we do live waterfront in Long Beach, that we have a lot of coastal beauty, but we have a working seaport in Long Beach as well.
I don't know, I think this is really, really impressive.
And we've only had a small taste of the harbor so far. It's kind of interesting. As we were heading down this channel, I saw a special cargo. Do you see it? Is there a fire truck sticking up out of one of those boxes? Or have they already moved it?
A new fire engine.
Yeah, at the very tip of this wharf. It's probably used fire equipment. We utilize these various types of ambulances, fire trucks, whatever, school buses even, and there's a market for used firefighting equipment worldwide.
You have a lot of birds and animal life here in the port?
There's a wealth of water life, sea creatures and birds in the harbor, yeah. Our waters are very clean in Long Beach Harbor, and it's just amazing. In fact, a little later we may see sea lions, and sea lions only frolic where they find an abundance of fish and clean waters.
Or the aquarium.
You're right.
So most of these are trucked away from the port?
Half of them are trucked away from the harbor. The other half, again, our cargo mix is about 50-50.
Is there a rail line close by here?
Yeah, it's on the other side of this terminal. Yeah, and again, these trains form. They're gondolas. The rail cars are called gondolas, and you can double stack one 40-foot box atop another. Again, each train into or out of the harbor takes, that's it. That's the fire truck that I believe is headed for export. Again, we may no longer see a need for that fire equipment, but there are plenty of places in the world that want used firefighting equipment.
So they purchase it from the city?
Well, I don't believe that's a City of Long Beach fire vehicle, but I'm sure it was a municipal vehicle someplace.
You have nothing to do with the oil islands, right?
Actually, that's an entirely different city department that operates the oil islands.
And I know there are two openings, one in the port of Los Angeles and one in the port of Long Beach, and they are called what?
Yeah, the openings to the federal breakwater in Long Beach, it's called Queens Gate. The opening at the port of Los Angeles, it's known as Angels Gate.
Is Queens Gate because of the Queen Mary?
Actually, I think the name predates the Queen Mary, I believe, and help me with the history here, Harvey. Long Beach was known as the Queen City prior to the arrival of the Queen Mary.
Oh.
Urban legend, perhaps. It's something that I've heard, but I really can't document. But the name Queen's Gate for our breakwater opening predates the arrival of the Queen Mary in 1967.
Well, you know, we're going to have to leave for a little while, but because there's so much to see here in the port of Long Beach, we're going to do another show for the following show, and so I'm not going to say goodbye. I'm going to say I will see you very soon, and thanks so far for telling me all about your port of Long Beach.
Hey, it's our port of Long Beach, Harvey, and thank you for coming to see us.
All right, we'll see you again.
You got it.
Okay. And that's our show for this time. Be sure and come back, and we're going to continue our show on the port of Long Beach. So thanks for watching.